seats. Oh, thank you. Good morning, everyone. If you could please take your seats, we'd like to get the program started. Thank you. Good morning. If we could please take our seats, we'd like to get the program started. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Good morning. It's not a board meeting, so good morning. Good morning. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, we're going to start off with energy. Good morning, everyone. My name is Betty Young, and I serve on the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, representing District 2. And I want to welcome everyone to this community meeting on the effects of H.R. 1 on Santa Clara County. H.R. 1 is not a big, beautiful bill. It is a horrific bill that will cause real pain for tens of thousands of families in Santa Clara County. But it is big, so today we will be focusing on three main areas of impact in our county: healthcare, food security, and immigration. You'll hear from Congressmember Zoe Lofgren and Congressmember Sam Liccardo, several of our county state legislatures, as well as my fellow supervisors, who are all with us today, and our county's executive leadership. Most importantly, we are all here today to answer your questions. There are white question cards at the registration table. If you have a question, please complete the card and hand it to a staff member walking through the aisles. Staff members, raise your hands. Raise your hand, staff members. Wave them, do the wave, do the wiggle. There we go. They're walking through the aisles, and they'll have blank cards on them as well if you need it. If your question is for a specific person, please clearly indicate that at the top of the card. There were also lots of questions that were submitted prior to the event. We compiled them last night to give as much room and space as possible to receive as many questions as possible. Copies of these questions are all at the dais for each of our presenters today to mull over. As much as possible, we'll try to incorporate answers and responses to your questions. If we don't answer them today, or the presentation doesn't speak to it today, just know that all the questions we receive prior and today on card format, answers will be posted in the days to come, and depending on how complicated some of the questions are, it may take a couple of weeks to get the answers for you, but it will be posted. Before we move into the heart of our program, I want to emphasize two critical points. First, H.R. 1's cuts were targeted at programs such as Medicaid and SNAP that serve the most underserved and needy in our community. Its impacts will be felt by all of us. Whether you live in Palo Alto and go to Stanford Hospital, or Willow Glen and go to Good Sam, you will face crowded emergency rooms, longer wait times for healthcare services because of the ripple effects of H.R. 1. Second, most of the draconian cuts in H.R. 1 are not scheduled to take effect until 2027, after the midterm elections, but we need to begin preparing now. So thank you to my board colleagues for tackling these issues today and every single day. I'm a first-time elected, and in the 7 months I've served, I can assure you that what goes on behind the scenes is exponentially more than what you see at face value. My colleagues at the county, at our city, throughout the region, work night and day to tackle this issue. And thank you to our Board of Supervisors for being here today, and for their staff for preparing for today's event in a very short amount of time. We threw this together to meet the moment, so I want to also give a round of applause to all the staff today. They already work night and day, and then we also took their Saturday morning as well. Thank you, and thank you for giving us your Saturday morning. So it is now my honor to introduce my friend and colleague, the president of the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Otto Lee.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. On the fine Saturday morning, so thank you so much for being here. My name is Otto Lee. I'm very honored to be welcoming you and thanking you for taking the time to join us today on the beautiful Saturday morning. Our county, Santa Clara County, represents 2 million residents, and we are the largest county in Northern California. For those who might want to understand geography a little bit, this goes all the way from Stanford and Palo Alto to Milpitas on the east, and goes all the way down past San Jose, all the way down to Morgan Hill and Gilroy. A lot of times people don't understand how big and how impactful we are. Yes, Silicon Valley is here, and also the capital of garlic in the world is right here as well, right? So we are a very large community, and I really want to say that I want to extend my huge thanks to my colleague, Supervisor Betty Young, for leading this charge of this event to host this community event, opening up this conversation surrounding H.R. 1, this so-called big but not so beautiful bill. Thank you, Betty. And I think for everyone here today, we are all aware of some of the impacts of this bill, which was officially signed into law just only a month ago. On the day that we should have been celebrating our nation's independence from the tyrannical rule, we're now at the place nearly 250 years after separating from the UK, the United Kingdom, in which we were then fighting. Now it looks like we have to fight this tyrannical rule again. With the passage of H.R. 1, our entire nation will feel critical impacts, whether they expect them or not. H.R. 1 delivers a multi-billion-dollar tax cut to the richest folks, all at the expense of our countries and our counties, working families, and those who are most vulnerable. Another way I've been putting it is like Robin Hood, reverse, right? Taking from the poor to give to the rich. Here at the County of Santa Clara, we are anticipating more than $1 billion, $1,000 million of lost revenues over the next few years. This will, without a doubt, create an extraordinary fiscal situation that will have dire consequences for all families, individuals, and the community. As they say, our county is the public safety net. This bill has now punched a huge hole in our public safety net. We have a full slate of speakers today from across varied branches of government leadership and experience from federal, state, county, and city, who will be able to speak on H.R. 1's impacts on macro and on micro level. Today's event is an opportunity for our elected leaders to dispel any misinformation about the bill and provide factual information about the impacts that will hurt us in the future. And remember, in this moment of extreme challenge, we must come together as a community to chart a path forward. We here on this stage and in this building are committed to working in direct collaboration with our state, our federal government, our regional and local leaders to explore every opportunity we have to best mitigate the impacts our community would be facing. But together, we can start to build the elements of our regional response. And with that, I have the pleasure of introducing the elected officials who are coming with us today. And I'll try to do my best because I know there's always a couple of people we miss from time to time, but I'll just go through the list I have here. Of course, we have our awesome speaker, Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, who is now sitting on her old seat, she told me. Our former county supervisor, fighting for us every day for 3 decades in Congress. And some of my colleagues up here, we have our Vice President, Sylvia Arenas. Another my colleague, Susan Ellenberg. And even though he's not elected, but I want to recognize him, James Williams, our CEO. Okay, so now looking down here, and no specific orders I have. I'm just going to try to go through those we recognize. I think I saw council members, many council members from the city of San Jose. I saw our newly elected council member, Anthony Todillo. Yes? District 3. I see District 4, we have Council Member David Cohen. San Jose District 5, Peter Ortiz. Peter, where are you? Oh, here you are. Also, let's see, I think I have San Jose District 7, Bin Duan. Bin? Yes. Okay. Let's see, let me try to go through this, and like I said, not in any specific order. San Jose Unified School District Trustee Brian Wheatley. Brian? On Milpitas, we have Milpitas Unified School District Trustee Chris Norwood. Chris. Okay. Let's see, do we see, I don't see that. How about, oh yes. Our Valley Water, Santa Clara Water District Director and former Supervisor, Jim Bell. Yes. And former Senator as well. Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority Director, Kathy Sutherland. Kathy. Right, and I also have a former trustee from the San Jose Evergreen Community College District. I have Maria Fuentes. Maria? Another former trustee from San Jose Evergreen Community College District, Myra Cruz. And while we're on that topic, I have another former Evergreen Community College District, my Chief of Staff, Wendy Ho. Wendy. All right, let's see, in Cupertino, our former mayor, Michael Cheng. Michael. Okay, for the Alum Rock Union School District, we have trustee Min Pham. Min? Okay, Los Gatos City Council, I see Vice Mayor Rob Moore. Rob? And let's see, Campbell City Council, we have Council Member Terry Hines. And of course, we can never forget this name, the one who was named after, picking between the airport and the train station. I think he picked the train station. Rod Deardon Sr., our supervisor. Thank you. Let's see, and also we have, Alum Rock Union Trustee, Karina Carrera Laura. Yes? Karina, yes? And I know the Sheriff Johnson couldn't make it today, but we do have Assistant Sheriff Michelle Asman representing him. Yes? Thank you. All right. And, oh, yes, I do see for the City of Saratoga, I have Council Member Yan Zhao. Yan? Over there. Okay, that's the list I have. If you are elected and have been forgotten, could you please get your name up there so I could recognize you? Anybody? Oh, wait, I see our former supervisor, Liz Nis. Hi, Liz. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. This is where I make a mistake. It's City of Campbell, Councilmember Terry Hines. There, thank you. All right. I got everybody now? Yes? No? Oh, of course, I cannot forget. I just see him walking in. Our awesome assembly member representing us right here, Patrick Aarons. Okay. I tell you, this is one of the hardest jobs. Trying to keep track of everything. Oh, of course, I didn't even see this one. You just sneak in behind me here. Our other awesome assembly member right here, Ash Kaura. Ash, hey. The king of selfies, and we're expecting you to do a good one for us, right? Okay. All right. Anybody else I missed? Going. Oh, one more. Yes, our vice mayor from the city of Sunnyvale, Linda Sell. Linda, thank you. All right, on that note, without further ado, I will go and turn this over to our keynote of this, starting with us, our Congresswoman, Zoe Lofgren.
Introducing the Dean of the Silicon Valley Congressional Delegation to give us both an overview of H.R. 1 and its impact on both immigration and science and technology funding in our region. Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren.
Well, thank you very much. I've been asked to provide some updates on some of the legislative issues I'm working on in immigration and science. But before I do, I want to talk about H.R. 1 and some of the things that have been going on in the past 7 months, which frankly feel to me like a lot longer than 7 months, filled with really unprecedented and in many cases unlawful actions from the administration. I voted against H.R. 1, what the president called the big, beautiful bill. Democrats in the House, all of whom voted against it, called it the big, ugly bill. But now that it's law, I call it the big, ugly law or a bunch of bull. It guts the Medicaid program, Medi-Cal here in California, the food nutrition program, the clean energy industry, the Affordable Care Act, all of which are going to push families towards poverty. Now, the Republicans are worried about this because no one, I won't say no one, this is a very unpopular measure in the United States. And so they have scheduled some of the Medicaid cuts to occur 1 month after next year's midterm election, hoping that no one will notice. that shows they don't understand how the health and hospital system works. It's great to be back in this chamber. I served for 14 years on the Board of Supervisors, and for many years I chaired the Health and Hospital Committee with oversight over VMC. And you can't turn a hospital system on a dime. You have to make plans. That no impact will be felt is absurd on their part. To cut $500 billion from Medicaid and force 17 million Americans off their health care insurance is going to be felt. In the district I represent, the 18th district, over 300,000 people rely on Medicaid. A lot of them are children and seniors, and they will lose that benefit. Thousands of clinics and hospitals are at risk for closure. And aside from the patient services, that's a lot of jobs in the healthcare sector as well. It's estimated that 28 rural hospitals in California will close, including some in the district I represent. And as well, the Medi-Cal program pays for about 2/3 of the nursing homes in California. Unmentioned in some of the news reports is the impact on Covered California, or the Affordable Care Act. That has been made accessible to a lot of people because of the subsidies that were put into place when Democrats were in the majority in the House. Those are going to disappear next month. And the estimate is that for people on in the Affordable Care Act, Covered California here, premiums will rise a little shy of 200%. For seniors, it could be considerably more. A lot of people will not be able to afford it and will go off their health care and show up at the county as uninsured, or our community clinics as uninsured patients. The other thing that the Big Ugly Bill did was it actually defunded Planned Parenthood completely. Now, Planned Parenthood has gone to court and obtained a temporary injunction, but already 2 Planned Parenthood clinics in the district I represent have closed. Now, we know that Planned Parenthood does provide abortion care for women, but they provide much more. Here in Santa Clara County, they provide primary care, they provide pediatric care. I don't know, in talking to some of the community clinics, where are those patients going to go? I mean, we do not have the capacity to absorb them in the other community clinics, so it's a very serious concern, aside from an attack on the rights of women. Also, the reduction in food nutrition programs, nearly $200 billion in the bill, will put a lot of people struggling for food in a much worse situation. It threatens 77,000 people in the district I represent with the SNAP program. This is children, seniors, veterans, people with disabilities. They've also cut off food for the food banks, as well as programs for agriculture that allow small farmers to be able to sell locally to schools and others. So all in all, it's an assault on people who need a little bit of help, and all to give tax breaks to billionaires. It's really, I think, outrageous. In terms of immigration, we have seen an unprecedented upswing in immigration enforcement during this administration. During the campaign, Trump said that he was going to deport violent criminals off the streets, and most people were okay with that. Instead, we have seen masked, heavily armed agents, often refusing to identify themselves, aggressively and sometimes violently target day laborers, busboys, farm workers, even U.S. veterans. These raids are terrorizing communities. People are afraid to go to the doctor. I'm hearing from school districts that parents are afraid to take their kids to school. This is not the America I grew up in, and it's not the America I want to leave to my grandchildren. Unfortunately, in the Big Ugly Law, there's a massive increase in funding for immigration enforcement. ICE will now be the biggest, the most funded, have the highest, biggest budget of any law enforcement agency in the United States, a budget that is bigger than the Army of some small countries. So that is something to fuel the very unfortunate enforcement actions that have been taken. In this Congress, I've introduced a number of bills. Two I want to mention in particular. First, the Bipartisan Farm Workforce Modernization Act. This is a bill that I introduced. The district I have now includes not only San Jose and Santa Clara County, but the Citizens Commission a few years ago extended it all the way past King City. So I now have quite a number of rural residents who I have found are lovely people. I've really enjoyed getting to know them and to meet them and to stand up for them. There are a very large number of farm workers in this district. More than half of them are undocumented. If they weren't going to work every day, we would not be eating salads. And this bill allows them to legalize, streamlines the temporary program, puts in extra programs, protections for them. It was crafted with the help of the United Farm Workers Union and growers who sat down over a period of 9 months to kind of sort things out and come up with a bill. It's a compromise. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's way better than what we have. It passed the House twice with bipartisan votes and was killed by Republicans in the Senate twice. We've reintroduced it again in hopes that with the threats that are now being made, we'll finally get the Senate to take some action. And the other bill I want to mention, in addition to many of the others that I've introduced or co-sponsored, is something called the Registry Act. In 1929, the Immigration Code was provided that individuals who'd been here for a very long time with a clean record could step forward and register and get their legal status in order. There was a date by which they had to do this, and that date has been updated periodically. The last time it was updated, Ronald Reagan was president. So it's about time to do it again. And so I have introduced the bill in the House, and Senator Padilla has introduced it in the Senate, and I'm hoping as the Republicans get the feedback I am getting about how unpopular is this aggressive enforcement towards otherwise law-abiding people, people who are working and paying taxes, that they might step forward and see the wisdom of doing something that was good enough for Ronald Reagan. I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about what's happening in science. You know, I'm the senior Democrat on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, and I think of it as kind of an island of sanity in an ocean of nuttiness. You know, we're probably the last bipartisan committee in the House of Representatives. So far, all of the bills we've taken up have passed unanimously and on a bipartisan basis. We're working on important things, on AI, on quantum computing, fusion energy, the space program. But what's a problem is that even though the committee is working together, outside of the walls of the committee, the administration is engaged in a war on science. They have unilaterally and in some cases illegally cut off research, cancer research, basic research, and the physical sciences. This has had a huge impact on our future, but it's also had an impact on our economy. You know, UCLA received a huge cut, nearly hundreds of millions of dollars of cuts in their basic research program. They went to court and stopped it. But we've also had other research universities, Stanford and others, Berkeley, even the national labs receive these cuts. So that is something that we're going to pay a price for in terms of technology innovation in the future. You can't have technology without science. And so if we're not investing now, 10 years from now, we're going to see a real impact on that. The other thing that this is doing is an impact on the development of scientists themselves. You can't have science without scientists. And what we've found is that universities all across the United States have stopped or reduced the admission of doctoral candidates and postdoctoral candidates because they don't know how they're going to pay for the research. Those smart doctoral candidates have two choices. They can go into a different field. Maybe they'll go into business and we'll lose them to science. Or they can go to another country, and many of them are. In either case, the United States has lost them, and that is our loss. I'll talk just a little bit about what we're doing in the House. As you know, the Democrats are in the minority by 3 votes. We are unable to agendize any bill. The Republican majority has that role. Any party that's in the majority, I don't want to say it's just for them. If you're in the majority, you set the agenda, what bills are being heard. Since the administration has engaged in so many activities that violate the law, we have formed a litigation task force among House Democrats. And a lot of the lawyers in the caucus are on that litigation task force. I am, and I know Sam Liccardo will be here later. He is as well. We are following what is happening, working with Democratic attorney generals across the United States when they are bringing cases, filing amicus briefs, and trying to follow up on enforcement, because when we get injunctions, in some cases, the administration has not complied with the court orders. You know, I can't stay to the very end, but I did take a look at some of the questions that had been pre-submitted. I'm wondering if I can just address a couple of them. One question was, will these funds affect medical specialists, areas of research, economic groups, et cetera? What's going on? Well, in addition to the cut on research scientists in this budget, they've done a very dastardly thing to student loans. It's capped at $100,000. Well, unfortunately, you cannot go to medical school for $100,000. And so unless you're a rich person or going to a rich school, you're not going to go to medical school. I talked to a young man down in Hollister a few days ago. He got a scholarship from the Rotary Club I was addressing. He wants to go to medical school, but he's not a rich person. He's going to the UC system undergraduate. He said, can we get this changed by the time I'm ready to apply to medical school? That's what we hope to do, actually. What will the impact of H.R. 1 be on community clinics? I've met with the community clinics, and I know a lot of the representatives from the community clinics are here. It will have a devastating impact for community clinics, not just the Planned Parenthood clinics that have already closed, but the other community clinics that serve such an important patient cohort. When I was on the Board of Supervisors, we did something that not every county has done, which is to have collaboration between the county health services and the nonprofit community health services. It's been a beautiful thing, continues to this day, and I'm sure that the county, as they're trying to figure out how to deal with the irresponsible measures that have been taken in Washington, will be including those clinics. Finally, the question is, how does H.R. 1 impact property taxes? Well, even a broken clock is accurate twice a day. It does do something about the wrong-headed approach that the Trump administration took when he was last president that is unfair. It was aimed at New York and California, because we are blue states, to cap what can be deducted from your federal income tax in terms of property tax. There is some adjustment there, and I'm glad that there is, but it is certainly not worth the price we're paying for all of the other outrageous things that this bill does. Finally, I would like to say that I know we will get a presentation from the Board of Supervisors on what they're trying to do. Even though this is a daunting challenge that we face, I'm a hopeful person, because we're the voters and we're the people of this country, and in the end, it's up to us to chart our course on what we're going to do. And there are 2 things I just wanted to share with you. I know the county is going to ask voters on whether they want to step up and try and fill in for these draconian healthcare cuts coming from the federal government. You know, prices are high. I went to the grocery store the other day. The price of meat is like, wow, what happened? So I don't think a sales tax increase is a great choice. I do think it's a better choice than closing the emergency rooms. And so I'm going to vote for it. And I hope people will think about it in that way. We're also going to have another election this November, and a way to fight back from trying to rig the election in Texas and other states. And I don't like that, but it's better than letting them rig the election. So I'll let you think about that as well. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressmember, and thank you, Zoe, for fighting on our behalf every single day against what seems like a very daunting and sometimes impossible landscape. Yes. But what we know here in Santa Clara County is that we have a long track record of making the impossible possible. At this time, I'd like to invite our state delegation, Assembly Members Ashkara and Patrick Ahrens, to please take your seats on the stage. And I'd like to invite Supervisor Susan Ellenberg to the stage.
Hi, friends. I think we have virtually with us Senator Dr. Aisha Wahab, Assemblymember Gail Pellerin, and live in the room, Assembly Members Ash Kalra and Patrick Ahrens. And the first thing I need to do is thank all of you. The partnership between state and counties is so vital. In many ways, counties are administrative arms of the state, and a lot of what is made into law in the state is implemented in the county. So we started today, and we'll talk much more about H.R. 1 and the federal impacts, but with the four of you, I want to really focus on state impact, opportunities for partnership, and efforts to mitigate some of the harm that is coming our way. So I'm going to start with Assemblymember Ahrens and ask, with limited Medicaid resources and California's new cap on Medi-Cal coverage for undocumented residents, how will the state reallocate funds to ensure access to care, especially given that counties must still provide care, often at greater cost if people are seeking it just through emergency rooms?
Thank you so much for that.
None of these are softballs.
Question
Nope.
to start us off.
No one's got time for softball.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you so much for Betty and you and the Board of Supervisors for helping convene us here today. I want to thank the Congresswoman. Thank you so much. We are so lucky to have you in the Congress. The conversations that I'm having with my colleagues right now around healthcare, around access to healthcare, around affordability, yes, the counties are still and must be obligated to help as much as we can, but I think that everything still needs to remain on the table. I think we have even talked about going back into session for a potential special session of the legislature if we need to mitigate some of the harmful effects by the Trump administration. We've done a lot of cleanup, a lot of response to what H.R. 1 implementation has been already. I'm really glad that we have prioritized and tried our best to expand IHSS funding and Planned Parenthood funding even before these cuts. But as you know, we are facing the largest Medi-Cal Medicaid cuts in the history of the program. and we can't sugarcoat that. And I think about really sort of the groundwork that Senator Jim Bell, who's here today, has laid out, and the work that he has done in the legislature, protecting vulnerable communities, protecting foster youth, and really thinking about what he has done and building on that. That is the focus that we need to have in the legislature now. And if it means going back after we pass the budget, that's what we have to do.
Thank you. It really is challenging at every single level of government. Before I go to the next question, I'll just look to see if a second person wants to respond to that.
I'm
Okay.
happy
Oh,
to.
please, Senator Wahab, go ahead.
Definitely. First and foremost, I just, again, want to echo the comments by Assemblymember Ahrens. Santa Clara County is one of the best counties to work with and for. I will also highlight that when it comes to social services, Santa Clara County is second to none. They are the leader in the state as well as the nation, and that is because of the partnership. I will highlight the fact that your county has come to the Senate and the Assembly. Both Santa Clara County, Alameda County, as well as LA County have all talked about how to make sure that we provide the most services to the most vulnerable community members. And with that, one of the goals and suggestions by the county was to not eliminate individuals, but potentially keep them on service, but reducing the scope. And the reason for that, and I will highlight why that wasn't so important, is because if you eliminate service and remove people from getting the services, those individuals, especially our undocumented population, still have family members that are going to pay out of pocket to pay for regular basic treatment, especially as this community ages. And that just puts a burden, again, on our residents, whether, regardless of status. And so, as best as possible, I do want to highlight that our whole goal was to prevent complete elimination of care. So, as July 2027 comes and rolls around, we're going to have a $30 monthly Medi-Cal premium for certain immigrants ages from 19 to 59. And the reason why we did that is because the alternative was to cut care entirely. And I do want to highlight the fact that there is more cuts that will come down the pipeline, and that is because of our federal government and what our Congressmember just recently stated. And we are trying really, really hard to keep the services in place. So on top of everything I just said, in July 2027, we're also changing from full scope dental to restricted scope emergency dental. And as much as I'd like to push back on that, I will say it's very, very hard to make our dollars go further. And so what we are trying really hard to do is just, again, have the services there, maybe increase the cost here and there at a very minimum for those, and keep the most amount of people on our services so we can actually treat them and help families long term.
Thank you, Senator Wahab. It will be more difficult. I appreciate that there were ways to preserve care, and it will come back again to counties to provide the care for individuals who are not yet enrolled, so are closed out by the cap. We will do our best locally to help those folks who remain on but need to pay a copay and need to re-up their eligibility more frequently. We will work to make that as seamless as possible, but there's no doubt that many people are going to fall off, and again, who is ultimately responsible for care for the indigent? It is county government. I'm going to move to our next question, which is regarding CalAIM and homelessness. And I'll explain that CalAIM is a federal waiver, which for a period of time has allowed California to allocate Medi-Cal dollars to things like preventing and ending homelessness, addressing a good number of the social determinants of health, which has been really extraordinarily helpful. That CalAIM waiver is set to expire at the end of 2026. And this year's budget, that's that's the direct healthcare piece, and I'm going to tie to that. This year's state budget includes no new funding for homelessness and still no long-term funding plan. So I'm interested in this question. I'll look to you, Assemblymember Pellerman. How does the state plan to support counties in continuing expanding housing and health supports and preventing increases in homelessness due to uncovered medical expenses, reduced behavioral health crisis services, or other services that we are able to provide now because of the CalAIM waiver?
Great. Thank you so much for having me here today and accommodating me on Zoom. Thanks to the County of Santa Clara, the supervisors, for hosting this meeting today. It's so critically important for us to have these conversations at these very difficult and uncertain times. Certainly, the expiration of the CalAIM waivers will have huge impacts on our ability to implement whole person, equity-focused care across physical, behavioral, and our social domains. It allows us to support non-traditional interventions like housing programs and community-based services to improve health outcomes for our most vulnerable populations. I just want to touch a little bit more on the issue of the Planned Parenthood cuts. Due to this, what we're calling now the BS budget law, with the South San Francisco, San Mateo, Gilroy, Westside, Santa Cruz, and Madera clinics for Planned Parenthood closing. And all these clinics have also stopped providing vital prenatal care, primary care, and behavioral health care. And imagine Planned Parenthood provides health care to nearly 1 in 4 Californians. It's often the only viable access to essential healthcare services, including birth control, abortion, wellness visits, STI tests, cancer screenings for nearly 1 million people, predominantly women, people of color, people in rural communities, and people with low incomes in California. So this is really one huge devastating impact of this HR1 that we're talking about today. Certainly that the intersection of housing affordability, homelessness, behavioral and physical healthcare service access is never too far from my mind. In May, data from the California Department of Housing and Community Development ranked the 2 counties I represent the 2 most expensive counties to live in. The housing crisis is visible in every corner of the state, and it's visible in so many different ways. We have teachers who must commute hours to get to schools that they teach, and that's not good for their students, and it's not good for their teachers. And there's also an environmental component to this, and there's an overall quality of life component as well. So this year, we sent 2 key pieces of legislation to the governor that will make it easier and less expensive for Californians to build and ultimately achieve more affordable housing. So this work is not over. I know that, we all know that, but we've got to continue to be creative on how to best work together to ensure that our people who work in our communities can indeed afford to live in our communities, because it's really what's best for their health and well-being and the vibrancy of our communities. So we're going to be, as Assemblymember Aaron said earlier, this is first and foremost on our minds. We are working diligently every day to address these impacts of HR1, and we're going to fight like tooth and nail to make sure that the services are provided to the people that we serve.
Thank you, Assemblymember Pellerman. I have time for one more question before I cede the microphone to my colleague, Supervisor Arenas, who's got some questions for you around immigration services. But Assemblymember Kaur, let me turn to you. You have been an absolutely fierce and unwavering advocate for working families, for people who have been struggling with a number of through an array of traumas, and you have also been a longtime advocate for older adults, which is the fastest growing community demographic in our county. So my question for you is, with an aging population facing reduced access to care, and let me just, as a sidebar, explain that even though Medicare is not being directly touched by HR1, the access issue is what is going to become much more difficult for older adults who will still technically have access to their health care coverage, may have a much harder time gaining access to it because of the other impacts. So given that factor and higher risks of homelessness, and I'll flip to the other side of the care economy, with childcare potentially being one of the most effective homelessness prevention tools, and families being an increasing demographic in our homelessness counts. How do you think the state should be approaching prevention and care in ways that address these really interconnected challenges?
Well, thank you, Supervisor, and thank you and the entire board. I mean, I'm in my 9th year in the State Assembly, and I talk a lot about what Santa Clara County does, not just as a partner, but in its being innovative and a leader. And in Sacramento, Santa Clara County is recognized as such, including on how to delve into these very challenging issues of healthcare and homelessness and the housing crisis. And not only, as you mentioned, is our senior population the fastest growing, it is also the fastest that's entering into homelessness. And my first 2 years in the State Assembly, I actually chaired the Aging and Long-Term Care Committee. I always cared about elder adults and the aging community, but those 2 years in particular really was a whirlwind for me, traveling around the state, learning about how much worse it actually was than I thought. And one of the outcomes and this is back in 2017, 2018, and one of the outcomes from that was that housing is healthcare, particularly as applies to seniors. As the supervisor mentioned, even there's Medicare, but even if you're on Medicare, I know those I take care of my father, it doesn't cover dental and vision. And dental could cost many, many thousands of dollars out of pocket. And as many of you may know, if you don't take care of your teeth, it leads to so many other devastating healthcare outcomes that can lead to homelessness. It can lead to losing your home because you can't afford to pay for that emergency dental care. And so there's a lot more we have to do. I've done a lot of legislation in this space, both in terms of accountability for nursing homes and skilled nursing facilities and others that take advantage of our elders in many cases, as well as increasing the number of subsidized assisted living spots and subsidized by the state. And what we have to recognize is that there is so much more we have to do in terms of the housing piece when it comes to specifically our seniors. And that's why when the opportunity presents itself, when we remove obstacles to building for developers, we have to at the same time require affordability standards or increase funding that goes directly in to housing the unhoused, and in particular senior housing. This is something the county has led on, the housing bond, other counties have followed its lead. I fully support Assemblyman Wick's efforts to get a bond a bond on the ballot so that when we ease the development at the local level, especially in expensive jurisdictions, there's a funding source that can be used to actually create affordable housing as well. And I also believe there's so much more we can do on affordable housing and childcare and that connection. The reality is there are so many families, children that are living in their homes right now. I think that we need to focus far away from sweeping encampments when we don't have enough housing for everyone and put those resources where they belong and put those resources to what the county focuses on the behavioral health, on the child care. That's where we have to, especially now with the risk, with what's happening with HR 1, we have to double down on ensuring that we're actually following solutions. And I think, quite frankly, it's a very lazy and immoral solution to focus on cracking down on the homeless, because homelessness is not a sign of inferiority of the individual. It's a sign of a failure of our society. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. In the midst of all of the horrors that are happening around us, that just gave me tremendous
I'm going to sound
hope
like
and
that
heart.
in 9 years, too.
Yeah, you will. I am now going to pass the mic to Supervisor Arenas. I thank the four of you for answering my not softball questions about state actions, and let's hit a different topic.
Thank you, Supervisor Ellenberg. Now, these will all be very easy questions because they're about immigration. So don't worry. All right, well, first of all, I'm just going to start off by thanking you for being here, for your willingness to answer these questions on the spot. And I know that a lot of our audience are key stakeholders that are part of the solution, right? We don't mean to put us all on your shoulders. We are here to make sure that we do this together. And so even though we're asking you the questions, we're also going to take that responsibility personally. And I know that our county has done so as well. And we'll talk about one of those bills that we move forward a little bit later. I was inspired by this lyric. Every so often, I do cite lyrics as an elected, and this one comes from Hamilton, and it's that song, "The Immigrants, We Get the Job Done." Yeah. The line is, "It's a hard line when you're an import," right? And one of the things that allowed me and many of you, whether you're brown or white or any color in between, we are all immigrants to this country unless you were native, right? And so that's just the recognition. But many folks talk about immigrants, they tend to think, especially here in California, they think about Mexicans, right? And they think about Latinos and how they're going to help us in the fields or in service industries. Some of us here are products of immigration, and our parents decided to give the American dream a chance and allowed us to serve our country later on. Myself included, my dad was a bracero, so he worked the fields, my mom worked the fields, and some of my older siblings did so too. And so to me, this is really important. I'm gonna get to the question, I promise. All right, the question is, I wanted to ground it in this because I wanted to make sure that as we discuss immigration, we are not an import. Our community is not an import that we can just dangle some money in front of and have them come relocate from their families, then offer a dream of potential stability. Our Congresswoman discussed earlier the Farm Workforce Modernization Act that's getting reintroduced and gives us a lot of hope. But my question to you is, the border security and immigration enforcement has radically expanded through H.R. 1. And so we have seen mass detentions and deportations, and of course this harms our community in ways that we have seen even in our local restaurants. People are just not coming out, they're not going to church. You know all of this very well. So what measures will the state advance to protect immigrant communities that preserve local trust from increased enforcement? And are there any bills in the making that will help with the ICE oversight? Who wants to take this on?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's what's happening now is heartbreaking. It's immoral. It's cruel. I went to law school in Washington, D.C., seeing military vehicles patrolling outside Union Station is a sight that you see in other nations. And the billions, the tens of billions going into ICE is basically for Trump to create his own Gestapo that he can enforce and do whatever he wants. He's starting by taking over D.C. right now. He's already made efforts in L.A. and other places. We have to be very honest about what's happening right now. Immigrants are being used as a scapegoat. We must focus on protecting our immigrant community, but we have to recognize it's not going to stop with our immigrant community. So if folks feel safe because they feel, well, I'm not an immigrant or I'm not undocumented, they're going to come after anyone that speaks up against this administration, and they're going to try to maintain power with an iron fist, which is ICE. And so we have to break that ice, and we have to ensure that we give the tools to our partners, including the county, to fight back. And it's working. And that's how you know when they start doing these more militaristic actions, it's because they're losing both the moral case with the American people, and they're losing a lot in the courts. You know, I chair our Judiciary Committee, and what was strongly pushing forward is, first of all, we had a special session. We gave $50 million, $25 million to county councils and city attorneys, $25 million to organizations that represent the immigrant community at the ground level. We did that because we saw what happened in the first Trump administration. We recognized that there was going to take a lot of money for our Attorney General and for local agencies to fight back. And so we were able to do that this year. I was able to get an additional $6 million to LA County, Santa Clara County, and San Francisco City Attorney. Because these three counties are not just, they're part of leading the fight against the administration. Santa Clara County, San Francisco County have filed more lawsuits than any other counties in the state. They need our support. And so I mention that because that's the kind of partnership that this moment is going to require. No one can stay on the sidelines. We have to know who our allies are. We know that the Attorney General has done a phenomenal job, in fact, has already saved us $168 billion in efforts from the Trump administration trying to take state money away from California. He has stood up for our immigrant community, but it's also the local city attorneys, county councils, because the AG can't do it. We know that we can't do it at the state by ourselves. We have to work in partnership.
I love that. I love that. It does seem like we're taking a lot of our battles on the legal platform currently. And so I greatly appreciate that. And I know behind me is James Williams, our county executive, and he put his mouth where his money where his mouth is, and committed quite a bit of million. I think at this point it's about 9 or 10 million. Correct me if I'm wrong. So locally, you're absolutely right. We're doing our part. Are there any other bills? And I think, you know, I'll ask, oh, I'm so sorry. Please, Assemblymember Ahrens.
I'll just add very briefly, Mr. Caldwell was right. Not only did we allocate that money to the Attorney General's office, but the Attorney General in Trump's first term won over 2/3 of the cases in court. And that is an important distinction because I want to make sure that we're not just throwing money at problems and hoping that something is going to come up. 2/3 of the lawsuits we won against the Trump administration, saving billions
It's okay to
of
clap.
dollars.
It's okay to clap.
And this year, it's closer to 90% of the lawsuits have been won so far by our Attorney General in these lawsuits, including a temporary injunction. There's an injunction in place that will not allow the Trump administration or his goons to get the data from our Medicaid.
Wonderful.
And one specific piece of legislation going forward through Assemblymember Calder's committee right now is the disclosure of unmasking police officers, showing your badges.
Yes.
People are coming from out of state to antagonize and terrorize, especially Los Angeles, but also Oakland, Santa Clara County. And people don't know who they're being picked up, who they're terrorizing. They could be law enforcement, they could not be. That is wrong. So there's a bill before the legislature to rectify that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for taking those battles on a legal platform. And I'm going to look to see, Assembly Gail Pellerin, please.
I just wanted to add real quick that I think there's currently 8 bills moving through the legislature that seek to protect communities from the secret police and this unconstitutional immigration enforcement. And they include bills to ensure ICE agents clearly identify themselves, as Assemblymember Aaron said, tougher restrictions against entering schools, and notifications to parents. I know many of these bills went through Senator Wahhab's committee as well, so she's been quite a warrior on this as well, so thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to just add, and to your point, Supervisor, I want to first and foremost say, you know, I am the daughter of refugees, let alone in my community, we fight for asylum and we have different statuses. So immigration is not just one piece of the pie, and it's not just one community that deals with it. I do believe that the Latino community is the face of immigration when we're talking about immigration in the state of California, let alone in the United States. But one of the key points that I have made, yesterday we were in Los Angeles having a roundtable on immigration with all the leaders in LA to kind of really talk about what is going on and how to expand this message that it's not just one community, it is all of us. They are coming after all of us in different ways. And I just want to highlight for the public what is going on at the state level. The state of California has been dealing with the LA wildfires first and foremost. There are thousands of properties that completely vanished because of the fires. Thousands upon thousands of people that have lost their home as well as their place of work, right? And now they are being terrorized by being potentially picked up, many of them being American citizens. The effort from the federal government right now, and especially their requests, have been to waive all historical advancements in civil rights to be able to do what is the definition of racial profiling. They are picking people up that look a little bit more tan, that may have an accent, that are confused of what is going on because literally people are jumping out of vans with assault rifles. We are also seeing the female population being targeted more by people who are masked that are not law enforcement of any kind, that are actually taking advantage and potentially sexually assaulting them. Right? You even hear it in rhetoric in podcasts that says, deport all the men, keep the Latinas here, right? This is complete misogyny. This is complete sexual assault type of language that is being utilized and much more. I will say that the state has a number of different efforts that we are working on. In fact, I personally have been pushing for the $10 million to just restore the Children's Holistic Representation Project, which allows for a social worker as well as a lawyer to unaccompanied minors. These minors, mind you, are also 0 to 18. So some of them don't even talk yet, and they are having to represent themselves. It is completely unfair. We are also providing millions upon millions of dollars, not only since January, but also in the most latest budget that was signed, to provide local legal services. And that was something that Santa Clara County has also championed. They're the ones that came and said that Santa Clara County, in Trump's administration, the first go-round, was the jurisdiction that sued him the most, right?
Yes.
And we are seeing that over and over again. And I think that one thing that I will say in Silicon Valley, what we have to challenge our colleagues and some of our tech leaders and our business and industry leaders is, what are you doing? What are you doing to advocate for the immigrants and the mixed status families? And the reason that I say that is because the Farm Bureau Association in the state of California, largely Republican and largely, hiring undocumented individuals to work the fields, have told the President Trump's administration, hey, don't do raids here. And we have not seen the amount of raids in the Central Valley as we have seen in LA. And it is because of the business interests. And even the Chamber of Commerce in California has specifically stated, and I want to quote them because they say that what we're seeing right now relative to the ICE raids has serious impacts for the economy, for our communities, and the lives of people who live and work in California. So with that, we need to challenge all of the tech folks, all of the business leaders in the Bay Area and say, step up and do more for all of the mixed statuses, not just the undocumented, the H-1B visas, and all the other people. So there is a collective effort that we all need to do more.
I love that. Thank you so much. And thank you for broadening this conversation because there's so many issues that are underlying when the messaging comes across our social media and our news. And so, yes, it is about refugees. It is also about women and sexual assault and strategizing ICE or mimicking ICE to pretend to be ICE so sexual assault can happen. The next question, I wanted to move on. The next question is very similar, and this is really going towards the earlier conversation, and so I'll get to it. What strategies and partnerships with the county of Santa Clara can our state legislature implement to preserve health access and economic stability for immigrant workers, as we know that the coverage for undocumented folks in California will be ceasing soon enough? How will we improve the health access for our immigrant community?
I think one of the things is that in the governor's initial proposal was to kind of stop allowing for undocumented immigrants to access Medi-Cal, and there was a huge reason why that was altered, because the legislature stood up and said, we're not going to allow that to happen. Now, as was mentioned previously, there are going to be some different, there's going to be some narrowing in the programs, some costs involved that I'm hopeful, as Supervisor Ellenberg had mentioned earlier, the working with counties, whatever, we can at least try to help buffer that so the impact's not falling on our undocumented community to have to pay some of those minor co-pays. I don't think I don't think anyone should be treated differently because of their immigration status when they're accessing public resources. But again, that was a pushback against the governor, and so that's why there were some things that we didn't necessarily want to do that we had to do in order to protect access for all Californians to Medi-Cal. And I think there's a lot we could do to protect. And I want to say one thing, but like, the immigrant community contributes a lot in the labor force, but that's not the reason why we need to protect them. We need to protect them because they deserve protection, support, and dignity. That being said, there are bills going forward. I have a bill to protect foreign labor contractors. Tried it back in 2018. Silvery Towers here in San Jose, also known as Slavery Towers, was built by, in much part, foreign labor contractors that were treated brutally. And so I'm hopeful we can get that through because we have to protect our immigrant community. And finally, I just want to make, because I know we're running short on time, we do have a measure coming forward regarding redistricting coming up before the state legislature next week as a response to what Texas is doing. And I mention that because the immigrant community is going to face the brunt of the punishment if we don't push back against what Trump is doing to basically control all three branches of government in perpetuity. So that's where these billionaires that are going to the White House and giving gold bars to the president, because they just got massive tax cuts, need to step up and support the effort for us to protect our democracy.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wants to add really quickly?
Yeah, do you mind repeating the question one more time?
Oh, sure. I asked about the strategies that the state legislature can implement to preserve health access, and that's what Assemblymember Ashkalra discussed, and the economic stability for immigrant workers, and he as well talked about that.
Definitely. So first and foremost, I think that our goal, as Assemblymember Calvera mentioned, was to ensure that we're not pushing people off of all of the services that we have asked people to sign up to. Right? First and foremost, we ask the undocumented communities to come out of the shadows, sign up for, sharing their data and much more. And right now, the big concern is how is that data being utilized, right? That's one of my biggest concerns. And I also want to highlight just the honest truth of what's happening politically. Sometimes things are not about policy, it is politics. And that is the thing that I hate the most in Sacramento, because when we saw that we had a new administration in place, and mind you, this was administration 2.0, we knew what was going to happen, right? Our office was one of the first to have an immigration Know Your Rights town hall online, 3 hours long, 300 plus people showed up. And the reality was that there were many colleagues that actually paused. They paused because the electorate actually voted in greater number in these ethnically minority communities, right? And that made people kind of say, okay, re-gauge as to what does the community feel. And now we are seeing polling again that shows that Latino men in particular are coming back to the Democratic Party primarily because they don't want to see their grandmothers and their parents be deported. And the reality is that our effort of what we are serving and delivering for the people needs to be the primary focus, because of the fact that if we aren't doing better for the mass community members, everybody, people are going to walk away from us, right? And people are going to say, okay, what are you really doing for us? And affordability is one of the biggest concerns. And it's the affordability of housing, and I think housing is one of the biggest concerns that any family has. Literally poll after poll after poll, year after year after year, says housing and homelessness are the #1 concerns across all cities. Now, with that said, when we are talking about immigration, and we have talked about data and we have talked about this, I will highlight that there's a lot of the undocumented folks that are going to their counties, as well as their hospitals, as well as their schools, saying, please delete my information. And the sad reality is this information is being sold, right, to data brokers for a week worth of our travel data, just based on our phones and our location, is being sold for $160 for a week of our data, right, to pretty much anybody and everybody. And the relationships that we have when it comes to our sheriff or CHP and much more, we have to re-emphasize that all of the data that we have, that we share, even with the federal government for funding, we have to protect our undocumented people. And the reason why is because the moment, even on different cases, when a child of a family that are, let's say, green card holders, hits the age that they are past what they would be considered to be included in that green card status for that particular family based on that particular effort, that information people are seeking right now to pick up the kid, right? If they hit 18, if they hit 21, if they hit 25, depending, obviously, we are seeing that over and over and over again. There are plenty of bills, and I will say, one of the big focuses is to ensure that our safe spaces remain safe spaces. So, historically, our fire departments, our police departments, our hospitals, our schools, they were all considered safe spaces, even when we're talking about abortion rights and giving up a child potentially, no questions. You know, we provide the care first and foremost. Right now, those specific institutions are being targeted. People are going into the schools. People are going and picking up children and parents when they're dropping off their kid. We are also seeing the fact that when two parents are picked up and they are undocumented, what happens to that kid? Even if they're 18 years old, right? And
Yes,
so
and
trying to
I
ensure that somebody can actually take guardianship over those children immediately.
Yes, Senator, and I apologize. I have to interrupt you because we are winding down, but I know, Assemblymember, you have something to say about AB 1025, the standby caretaker bill. But lastly, I do want to give our last thoughts to Assemblymember Ahrens as well. If you want to just quickly tell our audience what you've been doing with AB 1025.
Right. You know, I worked with immigrant families during the last Trump administration on developing a family safety plan in the event of a detention or deportation. And my AB 1025, which is sponsored by Santa Clara County, provides a vital tool that our immigrant communities need in order to ensure the care of their children. The bill enables custodial parents of minor children to designate a trusted individual as a standby caretaker who can step into caregiving responsibilities after a triggering event, such as deportation or detention. So the key feature of this bill is the parents do not have to go to court before the triggering event. The paperwork can be drawn up, it does not have to be presented in court until that triggering event, so that protects them from having to be exposed to the courts. Unfortunately, the bill was held in Assembly Appropriations this year, but I will be reintroducing it next year, and I could use all the support I can get to get this through to the finish line, because it's a really important tool for parents to have.
Absolutely, and thank you to both of you for your efforts. Hear you loud and clear. We have to battle legally. We have to communicate with our constituents, Senator, and of course, lastly, Assemblymember Ahrens.
Thank you. I just want to end by really underlining a little bit of what Dr. Wahab was mentioning, which is this. We can't just be about, although things are terrible, although the bill is terrible, and all of the things that we mentioned are terrible coming out of the Trump administration, we can't just be about being against somebody. We have to be for something. We have to
Yes.
deliver.
Yes.
That means actually addressing the homelessness crisis. That means actually giving people access to health care. That means actually reducing the high cost of living. And
Yes.
those are difficult choices that the legislature and the governor and the Board of Supervisors has to make. And those can come in many different solutions. But we can't just be vote for us, support us, because of the other person and how terrible
Right.
they are in the bill. Is we
Right.
actually have to deliver for people if we're going to reverse any of the things that are happening here today.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to conclude this conversation, and thank you for that last point, Assemblymember Ahrens. I think not because we are countering any of these points from HR 1, but because you've all been producing just some wonderful work in the different aspects that impact our immigrant community. It's clear that you are our advocates and not just a contrast option to HR 1. So let's give them a big round of applause, everyone. Thank you, everyone. This concludes this section, and I'm going to hand this over back to our wonderful host, Supervisor Betty Young. Thank you for all that you're doing for us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you to our state delegation, our supervisors, for that really rousing and thoughtful discussion. At this time, I'd like to invite our county executive, James Williams, to the lectern to present our county perspective. Oh, and I'm so sorry, James, just a brief pause. President Lee?
Sure. We also have now a few more of our friends and elected officials that we have not mentioned earlier. First of all, many of our families and our labor employee representatives are here today. I just noticed in the RNPA, the Registered Nurse Professional Association, is here. Yes. SEIU 2015 is here. Our UA Local 393 plumbers and fitters are here. Any other of our union members, groups? Just to make sure I don't recognize and miss anybody. All right, and I do see other elected officials who walked in. Los Altos City Council member, Nasa Flygor. And a former council member from Saratoga, Rishi Kumar.
Thanks.
Okay, I cover everybody? Okay, good. Go ahead, James.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm County Executive James Williams, and I just wanted to start by saying that I certainly don't take for granted that I have the privilege and honor of working for a Board of Supervisors, every single member of which has in their heart a deep commitment to service to this community, especially the critical safety net services that our county organization provides. And as a county resident, I don't take that for granted either. And that leadership and that bold leadership has done so much for our community. And I'm going to get to talk with you briefly, and I'll be as brief as I can, about what HR 1 means for our county organization and for the absolutely critical services that we provide to the entire community, all 1.9 million residents in Santa Clara County. Also just want to extend my appreciation to our incredible federal and state delegation who have been fierce advocates for the services that this county organization provides our community. So what does HR 1 mean for us right here in Santa Clara County? You heard some of the national impacts and information from Congresswoman Lofgren. Unprecedented $1 trillion cut to Medicaid, unprecedented cut to the SNAP program, federal food assistance. Here in California, by the way, those programs are called Medi-Cal and CalFresh. Sometimes people don't realize that Medi-Cal is the federal Medicaid program. It's California's implementation of that federal-state partnership. I'm going to focus on Medi-Cal for a couple reasons. One is 1 in 4 Santa Clara County residents depends on Medi-Cal for access to health care. 1 in 4. But the other reason it's so significant is because your health and hospital system that serves as the critical backbone for healthcare and healthcare access for every Santa Clara County resident fundamentally depends on Medi-Cal, Medicaid revenue for its operations. And I'm going to throw out some big numbers, but I'm going to try to also make those tangible so people can really viscerally understand what we're talking about and what's at stake for our community here. Santa Clara Valley Healthcare, which runs 4 hospitals and 15 clinics in our community, thanks to the bold leadership of this Board of Supervisors and past boards and the support of this community, we've saved 3 hospitals from closure. We've saved access to health care for the benefit of every resident in the community, and we've done so leveraging smartly, thoughtfully, strategically federal revenues, and not asked, by the way, in saving those 3 hospitals from bankruptcy where there was no private buyer, not asked for any increase in local tax revenues. And let me share how we've done that. A majority of the $4 billion budget for the operation of those 4 hospitals and 15 clinics, a majority of the revenue for that system comes from Medi-Cal. Another 16% comes from Medicare, about 13% from commercial insurance payers, and the smallest portion, only 12%, comes from the county general fund. I think most people don't realize that this is a system that is revenue-backed, that has drawn in incredible resources to support the backbone healthcare delivery system for every single one of our residents. And what does this system do that's been able to leverage those resources to ensure access to care? Well, Santa Clara Valley Healthcare, in addition to just operating 4 hospitals and 15 clinics, provides nearly half of the emergency department visits in this community every day. That's about 750 ED visits every day. If you call 911 in this county and you're a resident in Santa Clara County, 50% of all 911 transports come to a county hospital. That number's even higher, 60% if you're a San Jose resident. Think about that. We run 2 of the 3 trauma centers in this county, the only major burn center in this county, a top 10 in the nation rehabilitation center, best on the West Coast, where patients actually get transferred to us from other health systems across the Bay Area and across Northern California. $2,000 surgeries a month, an average daily census every day at these 4 hospitals of over 800 patients. The hospitals are busy. We took over Operation Regional Medical Center on April 1. The average daily census that day was 90. It's regularly 180 or more now under county ownership. These hospitals are busy, providing access to critical life-saving care, access, of course, to Medi-Cal beneficiaries and the uninsured, because our doors are open to everyone in our community, but access to critical life-saving care for every one of the 1.9 million residents in this county, every single one. And as I said, a majority of the revenue that supports that entire system, a majority of that revenue comes from Medicaid, Medi-Cal, majority. So what are we facing now with H.R. 1's unprecedented cuts to that program? For the upcoming fiscal year, the impact to our system is over $500 million. It then grows an annual revenue loss to over $1 billion and then $1.4 billion in the out years. I cannot overstate the magnitude of that impact to the healthcare delivery system, to the other critical services that are similarly funded by Medi-Cal, Behavioral Health Services Department supportive housing services, and so many other critical and essential services in our community that touch on the very issues that we just heard in the last panel are such critical statewide and local issues of concern. It's the, by magnitude, most significant revenue impact for a county organization since the passage of Proposition 13. We're very fortunate to be in a community that cares about public health care, that's continued to support access to health care. And you can rest assured the county organization will do everything we can to keep those doors open as much as possible. But make no mistake, we're talking about significant impacts to services and service lines, the ability for dedicated county employees and community partners to deliver urgent and much-needed care. And that's exactly why these conversations are so critical as we look to the partnership that we need, because we have an opportunity here in Santa Clara County to make different choices rather than to let the choices around who gets access to life-saving care and what amount of that care is provided, to not let the federal government dictate those choices to us, but to take ownership over preservation of this incredible publicly owned, public-serving healthcare delivery system and the broader services that it provides for our entire community. We've laid out a multi-pronged strategy. It's going to be very difficult work. It's going to require pushing every lever we can, both within our organization, but also in partnership with the entire community and with the state. Public hospitals in California make up only 6% of the state's hospitals, but provide more than 50% of the trauma and burn centers and train more than 50% of the doctors in California. It's the backbone for healthcare for all Californians. And so it's going to be incumbent on our state leadership and partners to ensure public hospitals are accordingly provided with resources to continue those critical backbone services that support both public and private healthcare systems. And we are going to need every arm of our community to work together in cooperation to ensure that the incredible systems that we have been able to build up that provide access and access with excellence are able to continue in the face of this unprecedented withdrawal of federal support for these essential and critical services. So I was asked to keep my remarks brief and focused, but I think you get the message loud and clear. Loud and clear. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you, James, for that very sobering presentation. Folks, at this time, we're going to take a 10-minute break. There are snacks in the breezeway. Stretch your legs. When we come back, we will be hearing from Congressmember Sam Liccardo and also start engaging in discussions about what a regional response and plan of advocacy can look like in this space. Thank you.
best use of us is when there's seen but not heard.
Thank you.
have it here just in case there is a problem. That's what I heard him say. Using these a lot, so we have to be careful to not beat it up. How about that? How's that? Sure. Does that look about right, Anya? Figure out how to tighten these. I'm just trying to figure out how to tighten it. It's
talking to Liccardo staff. Thank you. Thank you. Please take your seats. We would like to reconvene our community conversation. Thank you very much.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. We'll go ahead and go back to from our a little bit longer recess. I hope everybody gets some refreshments outside. So before we get starting again, I just want to also welcome some of our other elected officials who are here, including our Mount Pleasant School District Trustee, Derek Rasty. Our Los Gatos Saratoga High School District Trustee, Catherine Sang. And I think I also mentioned Los Gatos Vice Mayor Rob Moore. And on our working family here, SEIU 1021 representative. Along with our other Leuna, Local 270. Okay, and we also have representative from the Planned Parenthood here as well. Thank you. All right, let's move on. I'm handing this back to, Supervisor.
Thank you, President. Welcome back, everyone. Did y'all enjoy lunch? Snackies? Yes. So let me just say, the burritos were catered from Hecho and Mayfair, our latest food co-op. Yay. Living the mission every day, and also Garden Harvest Catering, a familiar friend. At this time is with the distinct privilege and pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Congressmember Sam Liccardo.
Okay, great. Well, hello. Good morning. Thank you for, I know it's been a long day already, and it's a lot of challenging news, and I know many of you are so responsible for lifting up our community as part of nonprofits, as part of the labor community, serving our county residents. Thank you very much for all that you do, and let me apologize on behalf of the United States Congress for all that we're doing to you. Thank you, by the way, Supervisor Young, and thank you to all our supervisors for having me today. I was just going to speak very briefly about some elements that maybe don't get described enough in the media about what H.R. 1, the big, bad, awful bill, is doing to all of us. And then I'd love to talk about any issues of concern to you or to the supervisors. So our first slide, what you see here is a bar chart. And to make sense of this, this is produced by a nonpartisan office called Congressional Budget Office. And they put together estimates of impacts of different bills on our budget and our economy and so forth. And what you see are 10 different bars. Those 10 different bars affect broadly the impacts to 10 different categories of income of Americans. And what is particularly noteworthy here is we see a very tall bar all the way to the right. That is the wealthiest 10% of us. And that very large bar reflects an increase in wealth of nearly $14,000 as a result of the big bloated budget borrowing bill. That is overwhelmingly as a result of tax cuts, roughly $5 trillion in tax cuts that inure largely to the wealthy. On the other end of the spectrum, we see that bar all the way to the left. That is the least wealthy 10% of us. They, on average, will lose about $1,200 in wealth, overwhelmingly reflected from cuts in things like Medicaid and SNAP, about which you've already heard, I'm sure. So if we go to the next slide, just in percentage terms, what this means to folks, because we know how much families are struggling right now to pay for rent, to pay for food. Guess what? Tariffs aren't going to help any. This is what it means in percentage terms, right? Obviously, that $1,200 means a whole lot more to the family that's struggling than that $13,600 means to a very wealthy family. And overwhelmingly, it's the cuts in these programs, these vital programs, as well as Pell Grants, that reflect this distribution, nearly 4% deepening of the trough for our poorest families. So that's a very broad overview. What does this mean for us generationally? What it means is that this bill or this law is going to accelerate our accumulation of debt by $4.1 trillion. That is what our children, our grandchildren, future generations are going to bear. And we already know, of course, that it is our youngest, particularly our youngest adults, who suffer disproportionately in poverty, right? Oldest among us, as a result of Social Security and a lot of changes that have been made over the years, tend to be better off than the youngest. And so this is obviously regressive in multiple ways, and this is painful in many ways. What I know the county is grappling with the most, of course, is with the cuts to Medicaid. And the cuts come in different forms. The most impactful cut is likely going to be from work requirements and other requirements that are going to make it much more onerous. In total, about $1 trillion in spending cuts that will be national. Other forms of cuts are, for example, prohibitions on taxes that medical providers would otherwise be paying into states like California. We're going to lose almost $250 billion just as a result of the elimination of the ability of states to collect taxes from providers. Those dollars were dollars that were critical to come down to counties like Santa Clara as well. So in the aggregate, $1 trillion, the pain is going to be very widespread, and it's going to go beyond Medicaid. What we already anticipate is as a result of triggers that exist in this, I won't bore you with all the jargon and mumbo jumbo, the term is sequestration. What we're likely to see 4 or 5 years down the road as a result of this budget, if everything holds, is a cut in Medicare as well as Medicaid. Very steep cuts on the order of hundreds of billions of dollars. So this is bad news all across the country. Now, I know I'm in a county building, so I won't talk about our options, but certainly our options include elections. I know you're going to be hearing a lot about those. And obviously in 2026, we'll have an opportunity, I pray, to get ourselves a new Congress. So I wanted to just briefly describe what it looks like at the national level. And now I'm happy to talk about any issues of concern to the board or to the community.
Thank you, Congressmember Liccardo. I'm going to turn to our staff who's been collecting comment cards throughout the day. And you can come back up here if you'd like. Get comfy. Yeah, and I'm going to ask staff to help move the easel to the side as well. And I'm going to turn to Peter if there's, would you like to raise some questions? Actually, my staff was 5,000 steps in the front of me because we already have the questions up here. Okay. Congressmember, can you address your thoughts on the brain drain of scientists and researchers going forward? And I guess this is like coming out of the cuts to science and technology.
Yeah, this brain drain is serious, and thank you. Thanks, Susan. Okay, it's on. There we go. Yeah, this brain drain is really serious, and this is one of those many impacts that's going to take a generation to fix. It's happening for a whole lot of reasons. One is the horrific immigration policy, which has everyone who's had any intention of coming here from another country to study or to engage in research, rethinking their plans, and we're already seeing on the order of hundreds of thousands of students and researchers that we are not the place any longer that attracts the best and the brightest from around the world, because many of them are having second thoughts about being here. In addition to that, of course, is this budget itself calls for significant cuts. I will say there's a little bit of a bright note, which is the White House came out with its proposal for fiscal year 26 with very steep cuts, 40% cuts, I believe, in NIH, National Institutes of Health. That's really important research dollars for many diseases, of course, that we know are being researched and cures are being found every year, as well as cuts to the National Science Foundation and others. What we are seeing so far from the appropriations bills being introduced from the Republicans are roughly status quo spending, so they're not taking the bait from the White House to go for the 40% cuts. So we're hoping we're going to see some restoration of funding through this next budget cycle.
Thank you.
Great. And Congressman, I know that you speak Spanish, and we're going to put this to test just a bit, or maybe we can help our, if I'm not able to translate this well, I can get some help. So this is from Parent Voices in Santa Clara County, and they're asking, con todos estos recortes federales, so with all the federal cuts, ustedes como nuestros gobernantes, you as our local leaders y líderes políticos and political leaders, revisaron las excepciones corporativas para ver si hay algunas que podamos eliminar. They're asking if we've revised or reviewed the exceptions to corporations to see if there's any that we can eliminate. And then they provide an example. Ejemplo de una excepción is Water's Edge election, que quita más de $4,000 millones de la propuesta estatal And so they provide an example of an exception is Water's Edge election that takes away $4 million from the state budget.
So I think it's referring to tax cuts for corporations. Is that the suggestion?
I think that is the intent, yes.
Okay. So forgive me if I haven't understood the question completely, but yes, this law that was just passed extends very significant tax cuts that were originally enacted in 2017 when Trump first came in. So that corporations, for example, now pay 21% marginal rate, which is much lower than they've paid at any other time in any of our lifetimes, and contains many other exemptions and deductions that are, in my view, very overly generous. So nothing about that tax code is going to change in the next year or two. This Congress is not inclined to do anything to impose a greater burden on our corporations. I know we would love to see that, given the very severe budget cuts that counties and states are subjecting all of us to because of the circumstances they're in. But there's simply this is a majoritarian Congress. It's run in short form. We get the government we vote for. And you and I may not have voted for them, but America voted for a Congress which is a majority Republican, as well as a president who likes to have low taxes on corporations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Congressmember. This question was submitted. Do you think it's possible for cities to survey and assess the number of at-risk individuals due to loss of housing vouchers, increased health costs, so that we can understand the scope of need?
I'm
Good
going to make
question
sure.
for a
Yeah,
former
it's a
city
good
guy.
question. I want to make sure I capture it right. Is it possible for cities to look at the impact of loss of vouchers? Or I'm sorry.
Yes, of at-risk individuals due to loss of housing vouchers,
Yeah.
increased health costs. The
Yeah.
second is a little harder to.
So I know the county is already undertaking the work of gathering through the census. Is it every year now, or is it every 2 years? It's the
Are you
homeless
talking about the
census.
point in town, the
Yeah,
point in time count? That's
is
done every 2 years.
every 2 years still. Okay, and right now there's, that is a far from perfect way of measuring the impact of what happens when we take a lot of vouchers away from a lot of people who critically need them. Of course, they end up out in the street or on someone's couch, and that's a reality we're all grappling with. I would love to say, well, let me just say this about vouchers. This is the most important thing we can do to help people who are struggling to pay rent and to stay off the street. That is to have more vouchers, not fewer. Right now, we have enough vouchers for 1 out of every 4 families in the state, and also that's true, the same ratio countrywide. About 1 out of every 4 that qualify as quote-unquote extremely low income. Of course, there are lots of folks who are not extremely low income that still need help with rent, but we're just talking about now about the extremely low income category of families. So we're badly underserving those who critically need the help already. What Trump administration announced 2 months ago, much to our great consternation, is a decision that they want to limit the use of vouchers to 2 years for what they call able-bodied adults. We know there's lots of different definitions of that, depending on your political perspective. So my concern is that this is going to get harder, not easier. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. It's further compounded by the fact that even for folks, at least in our community, that are holding vouchers, there often aren't units available.
That's
and
right.
People are holding on to them for years. So yes to more vouchers, yes to more housing, and I'll I'll share quickly that we did a heading home campaign where we got 1,200 families with babies and young toddlers into housing over the last 2 years with vouchers that were supposed to expire in 2038.
Fantastic. Wow.
Those vouchers are now expiring at the end of 2026.
Yes. The funding for those vouchers, which we hoped would persist, that is, of course, not part of this budget. So along with the lack of subsidies for health care, to help folks be able to pay for health, now there's also the cut in the subsidy for housing. I know it's not happy news.
No. Yes, thank you for being here, Congressman Liccardo. Another question we have today is a bigger picture one, which is how can we get those voters from red state, in this case we're talking about rural areas and whatnot, that has voted for Trump to truly understand the facts, right, and the harm that's being given, not just to blue states or whatever, but really to themselves, especially many of the poorer districts, before the midterm elections, so that, if they were to win the majority again in 26, how bad would that be? Because as this questioner says, this is a key to averting disaster of the big brutal betrayal that the Trump presidency is bringing to us today.
Yeah, all true. And I know a lot smarter people than me have been thinking about that really important question for quite a while, which is how do we actually communicate what's really happening to people who live in places where they can vote and have a difference in the outcome. And I'm sure someone will stop me if I'm getting too political here, but there's some great organizations that many of us are familiar with, like Indivisible, that are deeply engaged in organizing people throughout the country, and increasingly working on trying to see how we can get folks to pick up a phone or travel to some of those places, particularly since some of them are here in our own state, in the Central Valley, where we can both engage people in group settings as well as knock on doors and do all those things that we do when we're campaigning to let folks know what's really going on. In terms of what my own effort's been involved is, I've tried a few different things and we're going to keep trying more things until we find something that we know works. But I've had town halls in some of those red districts, most recently in Kevin Kiley's district up in just north of Sacramento, where we try to gather folks and talk to them about everything that's happening with Medicaid and so forth. What I find is the folks who show up are usually folks who already agree with us. So it's hard to find the folks who still have to be converted. I'm trying to see how we can get legislation out that will actually get messaging into the kind of places where people will read it and see it. For example, when we saw Trump engaged in his meme coin exploit that has enriched his family at least by $320 million. Many of you know about 700,000 Americans have purchased this Trump meme coin. So in February, I introduced a bill to make that illegal, as if we didn't think it was already probably illegal. And the whole point of it wasn't that we were going to get a bunch of Republican votes for it, because I knew we weren't. But what we wanted to do is communicate to the media that was publishing about cryptocurrency. Usually it's online magazines, and newsletters and so forth. And we were successful in getting more than 70 different crypto publications to publish the first line of our press release, which is that more than 700,000 Americans had invested in Trump's meme coin and collectively lost more than $2 billion. And so we're trying to communicate through the channels that they read and see and trust about what really is happening. Similarly, this week on Tuesday, I'll be introducing a bill that will focus on deployment of National Guard that will require the administration, or would require the administration, if I can get some Republicans to join the many Democrats who've already joined it, require the administration to describe in detail how much it's costing the taxpayer to deploy National Guard to LA and DC and so forth, and what the
and what the impact will be on our ability to respond to natural disasters, because you probably know hurricane season just started, and we know what happened with the floods in Texas and our inadequate response. And so more than anything, I'm trying through legislation to raise those issues in context where people will hopefully see and understand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Congressman, my Congressman. It's great to see you. The question I
Always a pleasure,
have
Supervisor.
is, will you please sponsor a bipartisan bill to exempt Medicare from the pay-go rule and to make sure Social Security is not partially or fully privatized?
Huh. Let me just ask whoever wrote that. Is there a bill out there now? Because I honestly don't know. Okay. I'm happy to take a close look at it. I honestly haven't. Given the straight, as you know, we're mostly playing defense here, and that's one of those offensive moves. Usually launch when you've got a majority that's going to vote for it. But I'm certainly open.
Thank you. James?
No.
James? Oh, no? Okay. All right. Thank you, Congressmember Liccardo. Can we give him a round of applause, please?
Thank you.
And Congressmember, I just want to make sure that I get to say that we see you. We know that you and Zoe and our congressional delegation are fighting the good fight every single day against a landscape that sometimes seems really, really full of despair. But you keep at it, and
Well,
we're holding it down.
Let me just say, I get hope every time I'm home, so thank you for providing us hope. Yeah. That applause should be for yourselves. This is an incredible community, and this is a community that the rest of the country needs to see. And I also want to say just about these supervisors, I know that each one of them, because I know them all personally, are deeply dedicated to doing all they can do. They're going to make some terrible, tough decisions over the next year or two as a result of the cuts that we've all been talking about. They have no choice. I know they have to balance a budget. So please go easy on them. They're doing the very best they can, serving as well as anyone possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna transition now to some discussion. So I'm gonna invite our first panelists, our first set of panelists, to come up to our stage, makeshift stage here. And for this discussion, we'll be talking about now that we've received all the information, what does a response look like? So please, let's a round of applause for our panelists. I'm going to invite Supervisor Advocacy to join me.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Margaret Abekoga, County Supervisor representing District 5, which covers 9 cities, starting from the north end in Palo Alto through Mountain View, where I'm originally from, all the way through the West Valley cities into part of Almaden. And it's a really pleasure to be here with my colleagues. Thank you to my dear colleague, Supervisor Young, for bringing us together. As we all know, it's probably an understatement to say that these are dire times and we need to unite and collectively work together towards a solution for the good of our entire community. So you've heard this morning from our congressional, state, and county representatives on the impacts of H.R. 1. Now we want to discuss a collective regional response and how we can engage together to move forward. So as we start today's panel, I'd like for each of our esteemed panelists, if you wouldn't mind doing a quick introduction so the community gets to know you. So we'll start.
Thank you very much. I think so. Is this on? No. Okay, great. I'm Tracy Webb. There you go. green light, not red light. My name is Tracy Weatherby. I'm the Chief Impact Officer for Second Harvest of Silicon Valley. And just for, I know many of you know us, but just for a little context, we are the hub of the charitable food system. So we have 400 partners helping us distribute food at 900 locations. Oh, right by there. Okay. We have 400 partners helping us distribute food at 900 locations. So we see a lot of different aspects of the community and how this is going to impact.
Good morning, everyone. David Campos, Deputy County Executive, and in that role, I oversee a number of functions, including the government relations team that represents the county in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. I also oversee the community engagement team, the Division of Equity and Social Justice, as well as our communications team, which is undertaking a community education effort to educate the community on the very significant impacts of the federal cuts on county operations.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicole Taylor, and I am the president and CEO of your community foundation, the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. We work with philanthropists in our region, over 1,000 of them, as well as 70 companies on their philanthropy. We also have our own endowment where we have our discretionary dollars that we invest here in our two counties, Santa Clara and San Mateo.
And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Sacasa. I'm the Assistant Director of the Department of Employment and Benefit Services here in Santa Clara County. And we administer healthcare services to 1/4, as you've heard today. 1/4 of the population of the residents of Santa Clara County receive some form of healthcare assistance or access to healthcare as a result of the work that we do. We also administer other public assistance programs such as the CalFresh program, the CalWorks program, foster care, and general assistance. And I will hand it off to.
Good afternoon, Ilona Betkolia, Director for the Department of Employment Benefits Services with Social Services Agency.
Great. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us this afternoon. We'll go right into questions. I have a few questions to certain individuals. I will start with you, David Campos. As part of our intergovernmental relations team, what do you see as the role of the state? Is there something in particular you would like to highlight for the community? And how do we engage and advocate for our county?
Great. Thank you very much for that question. We have some of our intergovernmental relations team here. The County of Santa Clara is trying to be as proactive as we can be in Sacramento and in DC, not only advocating for the county, but actually advocating for all of the counties in the state, the 58 counties, and specifically on the issue of healthcare. We run, even though we're the 6th largest county of the 58 counties, we actually run the 2nd largest public hospital system in the entire state. And quite frankly, there is a misunderstanding of how the public hospital system functions, how it's funded. And I don't think that people in Sacramento fully understand the impact on that system of what's happening in Washington, D.C. And so we are trying to not only advocate individually, but we're trying to work with other organizations, with CSAC, with the urban counties, and partner with all of the other counties that run, especially those that run public hospital systems. But I want to say this, we have a great delegation, and the folks that spoke earlier have done a lot to make things better and to push back against what's happening at the federal level and how the state responds. That said, unfortunately, the picture in Sacramento is not as bright as some may think. The reality is that on undocumented folks and access to healthcare, they will be pushed out in the sense that they will no longer be enrolled starting in January of 2026. And in 2027, they are going to be asked to pay a premium. And we believe that that will have significant implications in terms of coverage and access to those individuals. As much, maybe as 50% may be no longer enrolled because of those actions. And in Santa Clara County, there are about 75,000 people that are part of the state-only Medi-Cal program. And so that's, a large number of those individuals who may no longer have access to healthcare because of those actions. So we need a regional, I think, Marshall Plan on public health. We need to make sure that our delegation knows in the 9 counties in the Bay Area that Sacramento, as much as it's doing what it can, must do more. And we are prepared to organize the other 8 counties to make that point in Sacramento.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's talk about our county services. Robert and Eliona, can you speak on the impacts to the county and what you see our role to be? Are there ways that the community can support the county's work?
Certainly, I'll go ahead and get started. First and foremost, I think it's very important that we continue conversations and collaboration with our partners in other counties, having monthly conversations with them to really identify the actual impact that it will have in our community. With regard to health care, the impact is going to be severe. We are anticipating many, many people that could be impacted by this. One of those things that is coming to the Medi-Cal program, Medicaid, is the imposition of the work requirements. That is going to be a significant, it's going to be felt by so many people. And working together with our partners in other counties, having conversations as to what we can do. One thing is to go on an education campaign, which we have been doing, letting people know that if you are currently on receiving health benefits today through the Medi-Cal program, that it is absolutely critical that you remain on those benefits, that when your review is up to be due, that you fill out those forms, get the paperwork in, and remain eligible for those benefits. Because if you go off of aid for any reason after January, you will no longer be returning to the program under those same benefits that you were before. With regard to the CalFresh program, the work requirements are going to come back. We have not seen work requirements in the CalFresh program for many, many years. And those work requirements are going to be even more impactful because the reason behind these methods for folks to be exempt from work requirements is actually decreasing. One population that is going to be greatly impacted by that are our homeless, the homeless population. They currently today, if the work requirements were to be in place today, the fact that you are homeless exempts you from having to meet these work requirements. And that all goes away in January of 2026. So the fact that you are a homeless individual and you could at least count on having food assistance is no longer going to be the case. So.
I think just to add, putting aside our ethical and moral compass, that everyone deserves access to basic food needs and basic Medi-Cal, we just want to make it clear that our undocumented population are not eligible to receive CalFresh, have never been eligible to receive CalFresh. So the notion that the current work requirements impact that population is so wrong. It impacts all of us as a community, because if you think about Santa Clara County, over 130,000 individuals are receiving CalFresh benefits. We estimate about 50% of those will be impacted by the new work requirements. I think another population to really take into account is our senior population. The work requirement used to be 19 to 54. That has increased to 19 to 64. So our senior folks in our community are not impacted by those work requirements, right? We're talking about 80 hours of work requirement per month. And I think as a community, you asked the question, how do we, I think, educating our community, events like this to get the word out. I also like to plug in, we do have a flyer out on how to contact us, so please grab that, share that. We would love to engage with our community to get people enrolled.
Thank you. So our speakers today have made it abundantly clear that there are just less resources all the way around, set against a landscape of draconian policies designed to push the poorest, the most vulnerable people out. And at the same time, there's no lack of will in this room and in this community to meet the moment with the greatest sense of urgency. And so I want to frame this as this conversation around a regional response, that acknowledging that no one sector is going to be able to do it alone. It can't just be philanthropy, it can't just be government, and it can't just be the nonprofits left on their own. At the same time, no sector has the option to just sit out. So for those that didn't list, yeah. What I want to ask is that, it's clear, we need a regional response. And really point blank, is there an opportunity here from your sector, from your perspective, for a regional response? What does that look like, speaking in the context of your sector? And as an expert in your field, what does your base need to successfully participate in a regional response? So Nicole, I'll turn to you first, and Tracy, I'll hop over to you.
Thank you for that. So the Community Foundation, this is kind of what we're built for. This is why we exist and why we serve region-wide. During COVID, we helped anchor the funding for a regional response, raise $63 million from a lot of different philanthropic sources and donors and companies and everything. We're going to need at least double that just to bridge while the cuts come down, to give nonprofits some runway, to give the counties some runway, to give the cities some runway, as we think about what the long-term plan is going to be as these cuts really take hold. And so we will be launching a fund, a regional fund, to help respond to this crisis. This fall we are doing it, so this is kind of the unofficial launch of the fund. Thank you. We want to make it easy for philanthropists to know what to do, how to step up, where to give, because all of the nonprofits are going to feel this. All the county departments, you all are going to feel it. The city departments, everyone is going to feel it, and it can be very overwhelming for just a regular person to be like, well, how do I step up and help? Or for people with even tremendous wealth to say, well, where do I start? And so we are going to co-create the fund. We're working with some key nonprofits. We're going to be working with the county. We're going to reach out to the Santa Clara County staff and San Mateo County staff so that we can collaborate and cooperate. And that is going to be the mantra, I think, going forward. We have to collaborate. This fund, yes, will help things like essential services, food, housing, urgent needs that come up, immigration services, but it is also going to invest in helping the nonprofit sector. How do they sustain and become much more resilient? Pay for services like helping boards identify how do you share services with other nonprofits. Maybe there's some ways to use technology and AI to deal with your back office. How do you think about co-locations and things like that? That's all good to say and think about, but that can be hard to do. So how can we actually provide the resources so that nonprofits and their boards can really think about how can they collaborate and partner to make it through what is going to be pretty devastating. So just know that we are going to step up, and I'm going to shake every bush that I have access to make sure that we can raise these resources. So.
I would say that at this moment in time, we are so grateful to be part of a community that already works so closely together. I think every one of the supervisors has been in our food bank. We work closely with the Community Foundation. We sign people up for CalFresh and Problem Solve together. So we've got the basis to all be working together. But I think, one of the things that I just wanted to note is how interconnected every one of these things is. It's not like we can solve one of them. Food insecurity is not because of CalFresh. The Medi-Cal cuts are going to force people to be hungry. The housing costs are going to force people to be hungry. And it's all interlinked. Even the immigration crackdowns, right? We're seeing people who, even if they have citizen children who qualify for these programs, are terrified, rightly so, and will not sign up for them. So the need is really going to skyrocket. And, us, the food bank and our partners, we are already serving 1 in 6 residents in both of our counties, Santa Clara and San Mateo counties. We are 95% privately funded. Over 75% of that is individuals. So it's already the community that is upholding this. We're going to need the community even more as these government programs are under attack. And you can see if you look at the things that are planned in the out years, if they're allowed to implement them, they're trying to destroy the safety net, period. It's not a matter of some people getting kicked off. There is a wholesale attack on any kind of safety net services, whether it's CalFresh or Medi-Cal. And for instance, the work requirements that Ilona's been talking about, many of the people who receive these benefits are working. It's the paperwork that's going to kill them and take them off these programs, because it creates a huge burden for the county to do. People who are in such dire need, they can't be renewing these things every 6 months and finding all those papers again and submitting 4 times. So I just think that the more we can work together as counties to make sure we're doing absolutely everything we can to make it easy for people to get access to what benefits are remaining, but also just really keeping in mind how interlinked this all is, how much support we're all going to need from the community. We're not going to be able to meet all the need this creates, but if you work with your local nonprofits, if you support people like the food bank, we can help build a bridge until hopefully we can get a better system put back in place.
To my county colleagues, with all the information that was shared today and the commitment from various sectors and partners to collaborate, what does a regional response? Is it 3 counties, 9 counties? Is it the whole region? What can that look like here? I don't expect a full work plan. Just want to.
I think it's every part of the region, and the Bay Area. We have a 9-county, regional government already that is working in issues like transportation, right? We have the MTC, housing, MTC, ABAG. We need something similar around healthcare, public health, and the basic services that we're talking about. The nutrition. And so I think that Santa Clara County can play a role in organizing these efforts. And so we are committed under the leadership of the County Executive, James Williams, and this Board of Supervisors, which is a pretty amazing, proactive board, to do that. But it also begins, and I will make this plug, it begins with us locally. One of the things that the county is undertaking is an education effort to educate the public about the impacts of the federal cuts. I don't think people understand the magnitude and how quickly it's all happening. As the county executive said, hundreds of millions of dollars now. And so we have an education effort. We have folks from our Division of Equity and Social Justice that are here that will be going out to the entire community to make that point, that educational, providing that explanation. We ask each of you to please be ambassadors for the county in providing that information. We have handouts here because I don't think that people understand the magnitude and how existential this is. So you can help us do that. And each of you here knows so many people, has so many relationships. You can help us spread that word.
I would just say very quickly that, the good news is that we can build on those relationships and that we have with folks in other counties already, use that as a strength, and our partner organizations as well that can, we can have conversations about going out, educating the public, talking to each other, see what things that are working really well in other counties, other areas that we can maybe sort of adopt, share our experience here with our partners and our colleagues in other areas, so that we can collectively address this. It's not just one county, but really the entire Bay Area is one united force approaching the onslaught that we anticipate.
And I was just going to add to that, aside from our partnership with our partners and with other Bay Area county, one thing that I really want to highlight is how amazing this board is, because you all have reached out to us, connected us with different organizations. Supervisor, you've connected us with Bay Area Metro, right? Because every dollar counts. How do we get people enrolled in different programs so they can stretch their few dollars that they're getting? And I think, the partnership that we do with the state, we attend monthly meetings. The state has informed us that starting next month, they're actually going to start partnerships with the counties to start meeting monthly of how do we implement these changes. So that's huge for us.
Thank you to our panelists for the work you do every single day, for being here with us. So some key items I got from this discussion today, that yes, a regional response is absolutely needed to meet this crisis head on, because everything is connected to each other, and our counties share like the same population of and also same values. I also heard that county is a natural convener of a regional, of bringing folks together for a regional discussion, regional planning. I've also heard that we have to unsilo ourselves, right? There are folks who want to meet the need. There are folks who need their needs met. So how do we further connect them through this response? A round of applause for our panelists. Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Yeah. So time check. We originally scheduled this event to end at 1 o'clock. I'm going to say that we have one more panel discussion about advocacy and next steps. Oh, here we go. So if folks can stick around, we'll hang out till 1:30. We'll move the mark there. Does that sound okay? I see heads nodding. I see heads shaking. Do you? But we're going to invite our next moderator. Huh? Do you have that on a comment card? We'll take that right now. Thank you. And also, I just want to remind folks that for any questions not responded to today, we are going to be compiling responses to everything as a follow-up. But I heard that. Let's make sure our moderator also heard that. So I'm going to invite Maritza Maldonado to come on up, and our next panelist. Thank you. And Marissa, there was a request for a discussion around disability rights and awareness.
So thank you for being here today. I think my name is Maritza Maldonado, founder and executive director of Amigos de Guadalupe, Center for Justice and Empowerment, and I believe strongly in rooting us in the reality of the climate here today. So we will get to your question today, but we have Ms. Rain Mendoza, who will ground us in the work of advocacy, but more importantly, of the pain that all of our communities are facing right now in light of the situation that's happening. Ms. Rain.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having us here, supervisors and community. My name is Ms. Rain Mendoza. I'm originally from Mexico. I'm here to give my testimony and the testimony of the community that we serve in the east side of San Jose and North San Jose. I'm originally from Mexico City. I came here when I was 14 years old. I work in the farm workers in the east side. I came here undocumented. I was undocumented for about 16 years. And while I was undocumented, I always said that I was a whole happy-go-lucky immigrant. In 2013, I was picked up by immigration, and that's when my nightmare started. I fought my case for 5 years. After about $20,000 and 5 years of pain, I was able to win my cancellation of deportation case here in San Francisco. Only 2% of my brothers and sisters can win those type of cases. I'm also from the LGBTQ plus community. And let me tell you, it was a nightmare with what I went through. But finally, this year, I'm getting my stuff together, and I'm going to apply to become a citizen of this country. And I'm here. Thank you. I'm here because I want you to understand that being in our skin, being brown these days, it doesn't feel very welcoming in the United States of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we believe that we can pursue happiness and freedom. As I stand here today, I don't feel that way. I feel not welcome, not wanted. This president has put a target in our backs. And my community is ready to meet the challenge. But one thing you can be certain, you can mess with us as brown men, but please, please leave our women and children alone. Please. As I conduct my meetings, my community meetings at Amigos de Guadalupe, we have children and families coming into our offices. And I'm going to tell you a story, two stories. One of our children that I found underneath my desk. While we were conducting a meeting, and I went and looked for the child, and I saw him underneath my desk. And I asked him, "What are you doing there?" And he said, "I'm hiding." This child is 8 years old. And he told me he was hiding from La Migra. He asked me if it would be safe there. I didn't know what to say to him. I didn't want to lie to him. I didn't want to tell him that none of us are safe. I carry my ID with me. It's not enough. I have my green card with me since this president came into office. And none of these papers are going to save me if they want to take me away. I was put away already. I was detained by immigration, like I said, in 2013. And believe me when I tell you, I woke up for 5 years, every single day, wanted to leave this country. So the campaign of fear is working. But our campaign of resilience, resistance, love, and courage is going to win over anything that this government wants to do to us. Last, I'm going to tell you another little episode that happened. I saw this leader that comes in the bus to our meetings every time, in the bus. And this time I saw her coming in a little sad, shaking up. So as the meeting was going on, we went into an office and I asked her what happened. And she says, Ms. Rain, I was at the bus stop and I saw a car with tinted windows, just like the ones you told us in the trainings, and I hide behind the bus stop. That's why I was late. I was almost about to call you to come and pick me up. My first thing I say is that you call the Rapid Response Network. And she says, no, I trust you more than I trust anybody else. After the meeting finished, funny things happen at Amigos. No coincidence. We don't believe in coincidences in Amigos de Guadalupe. We were talking about how you defend yourself against ICE that night. And she says, when she was leaving, Ms. Rain, no matter what happens, I was still gonna keep coming back here because Amigos is family. Amigos makes me feel safe. And with that, I'm gonna start by saying there are people and our resilience and our courage is gonna go beyond any terrorizing tactics and narrative that they wanna use against us. Now, I wanna tell you, supervisors, thank you for everything you do for our community, okay? Please keep fighting. We got your backs, okay? And let me tell you, our community loves you guys, okay? And you know it, Betty. You came to our celebration, and you saw those children dancing. And we had that celebration in the name of justice and resilience. Because like we say in Spanish, you know what? No hay que llorar, hay que cantar, okay? We don't have to cry, we have to sing, because that's what Mexicans do, okay? Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for this opportunity, Marixa.
Thank you. And if you didn't notice, we pivoted from the agenda, and we pivoted for a very specific reason, because we know that all of our communities are attacked. So I will go to you, and I will take this microphone for you to ask your question, because you're right, we have not talked about that. So I will go right now, and you can ask your question to the group here.
My question to anyone and everyone here who has any ability and has been listening to anything that has been said, and particularly the last panel, what are you going to do about the disabled services that are now completely been depleted and were poorly in existence prior to all of this budgetary nonsense? They were already in short supply, they were already ill provided, and now they are all but gone, and will continue to be so. We had a whole panel talking about how the budget is affecting and how Medicare and Medicaid is going to be affected with regard to the ableist question and working, but that is an absolutely ableist question. You can't work if you're disabled, y'all. And nobody is addressing that. Yes, everybody else has very important issues, and we are currently drowning in all of them. But if we're going to help the least of us, hi, I'm disabled, and I am among the least of us. What are you going to do to help me?
Thank you for your question. Anyone want to answer? Any of the panelists? All right.
I'll go ahead and share some comments on that. And I think you point out something that's really just so deeply disturbing about the cuts that we are facing from the federal government. Because we talk about work rules, and you talk about having people jump through these hoops, right? The reason that they scored 34% of that $1 trillion Medicaid cut, 34%, the single largest category, is attributable to the imposition of those work rule requirements. Now, why is that? Obviously, when you add more rules, you add more forms to fill out, that actually increases administrative costs. You'd think that's a cost increase. But the reason it was scored federally as a savings is because it's a direct result of having millions of Americans, not thousands, not tens of thousands, millions of Americans lose coverage altogether, including folks who, for very valid and legitimate reasons, can't jump through all those hoops or have additional burdens and challenges in jumping through those hoops. That's the single largest cut that was made to the federal Medicaid program. There's many others, of course, but that's the single largest, 34% of that $1 trillion cut. So what can we do? Like I said earlier when I talked about what we're trying to do as a county organization, we have a big hole to fill where the real truth is, even before H.R. 1, there were tremendous needs in the community that were already going unmet. And now we have this over $500 million hole in the upcoming year, growing to $1 billion the year after that, and even more thereafter. We absolutely need everyone in our community to be a participant in helping out with that. We absolutely need the partnership from the state. But this is not going to be an easy few years. And your question's spot on, because we must not forget that those who are disproportionately harmed by the services that we're talking about, it affects everyone, every single resident in the county, but those who are disproportionately harmed are those who have the fewest options available, those who are already facing challenges in accessing services, those who already have barriers, those who already are struggling for a number of reasons. That emphatically includes our disabled community, for sure. It includes the homeless. It includes a whole host of folks who are being pushed aside from accessing, and let's be clear what services we're talking about. Healthcare and food. And a whole range of associated services. These are some of the most essential things for people's very survival.
Thank you for that. Supervisor Young.
So Maritza, I have a question. Sorry, I'm going to pull one of the comment cards here. And one of the comment cards is from the audience who says, I'm a young person. I'm not old enough to vote yet. Huh? Oh, I heard that. Okay. So a question from the audience is that I am a young person. I'm not old enough to vote yet, and all my friends are not old enough to vote yet. What can we do in terms of advocacy?
So this is a great question, and I believe strongly that our young people can show up in numbers and change the trajectory of decisions. And I have seen it time and time and time and time again. Look, what I know around advocacy and organizing is when you all are looking for votes and you don't know who's sitting in the room, you don't know if I'm undocumented, you don't know if I'm disabled, you don't know if I'm a young person that can or can't vote, what most of the time we're trained to see is votes. So I tell our young people to show up, because that piece is quintessential to our civic duty and we start training our young people about advocacy very early on. So even if you can't show up, you can show up to a protest. You can do phone banking. You can come out to a community meeting. You can hook up to organizations that are doing organizing in a very smart and strategic way. Misrain is our lead organizer at Amigos de Guadalupe. Anything else you would add, Misrain?
Yeah, also register to vote early. I believe you can register when you are 17 years old. So register early to vote. I believe, Jeremy, we were working last year and going to all of the high schools and registering the young people.
I would add as well, look at your levels of government for engagement opportunities. The county has a youth task force, which is quite active. I suspect many of our cities have engagement opportunities for youth. Many high schools even have groups that are bringing kids together that want to be civically engaged. And if no one is doing it yet in your circle, maybe you are the one that can start that. You will find lots of support in this community and lots of support from each of your supervisors as well. So reach out to us for opportunities.
And then I think this is a really inspiring place to conclude today's discussion for now. There's also a question from our neighborhood associations. They're asking, what can neighborhood associations do? And this question is really for everybody on the days here, and Maritza, and for our advocates too. I mean, if anybody wants to help answer this question, raise your hand in the audience. If you represent the disability rights group, if you represent food systems, right? Neighborhood associations and young people are saying, what can we do? How can we help?
So let me go to you then. I feel like Oprah Winfrey here, running through the audience.
For those that want to get more connected and understand what's going on with the unhoused, there's a group called Neighborhood Hands that meets at Guadalupe Gardens every other Saturday morning. Yes, we get there early, but it also means you get your whole Saturday back. And we are cleaning up Guadalupe Gardens, whether it's picking up trash or clearing brush. And we have been drawing over 200 unhoused people that come for a modest stipend. And after that, we have a resource fair. So I'm thinking Amigos de Guadalupe, we've got a very diverse community of unhoused people. And I've learned a lot in the last 4 years that I've been involved with them, and we would love to see our neighborhood organizations come out and get to know their neighbors that we often turn away from. So neighborhoodhands.org is founded by a gentleman named Bill Sullivan, who's born and raised here in San Jose. So thank you. And thank you for our supervisors that have already come out and visited us. Thank you.
And thank you for your work.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Supervisor Young, and all the supervisors here and everybody that showed up. My name is Olivia Navarro, and for those of you guys that know me, I wear many hats. But this all started at the very young age of 14. So for young people that are listening, that you don't know how to get engaged, look into, like Supervisor Ellenberg, commissions. There's a youth commission. There's also committees. So they're not alone here. We're the backbone. We're here to they're here to support us, but we also have to put in the work. We can't expect them to do it together all the way to Congress. I was just at the White House recently, and I see what they're doing. And it is a very difficult thing to go into the Shark Tank. But us making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing here, no matter how young you are, no matter how capable you are, no matter if you're housed or unhoused, with or without money. My dad always says, if you want work, just look for it. It's always there. So it's up to us here and everybody that's listening online for you guys to also step up. So this is a call to action to everybody here. We're not going to get this together all by ourselves, but the reality is I just went to a conference in Santa Clara County. Kudos to the supervisors here. You're leading the change. And I know that Supervisor Arenas is specifically in immigration and Latino issues, because I went to a conference specifically on that. And that's where I saw the disparities in all the other counties in the United States. This is critical work, what we're doing, and it's not just here. It is trickling into South Carolina, Georgia, Kansas, all these little small towns. They need us to prevail, because if we don't, we're in a very dire situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one more.
So I'm going to help with the time we have left, and I could see the whole view here. I see you, sir. I see you. I'm going to turn the mic to Michelle, then to Supervisor Arenas, and then gentleman will be the closer. No pressure. Michelle is in the teal shirt in the back.
Sorry.
Okay, it's on. I want to say that first and foremost, access needs are human needs, which people with disabilities struggle with this. We're entering a time when the administrative burden is going to become more to ensure that our kids have their services, to ensure that we have our program needs met, to ensure we have the independent life supports that we need. This is where everybody, especially the neighborhood societies, can start to help out. Whether it is knowing you have a neighbor with a disability or a senior or a young child that needs that little bit of extra support that can make the difference in their day. Because as a community, we're beautiful. We are stronger. We are more resilient. And especially when we start to include people with disabilities in that mix, because we can make a difference. And that difference doesn't have to take more than an hour out of your day that you donate to somebody else's time to help lighten their load a little bit. Or you know somebody who can connect them to solve a problem that they're currently having. But until we unlearn ableism, until we unlearn the stigma of being disabled, we're harming that community member, that community as a whole. And that's a universal process that we just all need to work to be better at, because access needs are human needs. And those that are the few that will be cut services are people with disabilities. And the disability community is already bracing to lose our members. We've lost people already. We will continue to lose people. The risks are institutionalization, hospitalization, or death when our services are cut. And I want that highlighted and amplified, because I know the county still grapples with this. Go back to the Disability Inclusion and Equity Pledge. You'll find all the answers you need in that document. And thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you.
Supervisor Arenas, and then gentlemen, you'll have the closing question. We're going to have...
Oh, thank you so much. Listen, I just wanted to add just one bit, and I know we're focused on the young person. My office has internships available, so I wanted to announce it's very self-serving, but this is one of the ways that I have seen a lot of our youth come into our spaces and figure out whether, one, they find their voice and use their voice, so by the time they hit 18, they're ready to vote, they're ready to be integrated into a larger group, and usually that group is going to advocate and use their collective group. I love the neighborhood associations and their the work that they do. It all begins with somebody wanting to change or to create change. And what I heard throughout this meeting from the very start, if you were with us from the very beginning, and I know that you reiterated this theme, Supervisor Young, and it's having a collective effort, right? Organizing ourselves into maybe some regional bodies, because those voices carry more weight. That's the reality. When you go to a city council meeting, or you come to the board, or you go and testify anywhere else, if you have a group of you now, your voice weighs a lot more than when a single person comes in and voices a single item concern. And not to say that that is lessened in any way today, because we hear you loud and clear about integration, about some issues that we haven't been clear about or integrated previously, but having that collective voice, finding that voice, using that voice, and carrying it into the boardrooms that really matter. That is going to create a wave of strength for our elected officials to find their bearings and vote the right way for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. We are here to present the possibilities that may exist to establish and create, with the support of the county, a center of human transformation and development, framed within the methodology of quantum thinking and neuroplasticity, a space that helps those who today live with depression, anxiety, or the feeling of not having a purpose to become entrepreneurs, resilient individuals, and mentally healthy people. At Oasis of Life, we believe that every person has something wonderful, powerful, and transformative to offer society. We choose to see and uphold the greatness of every human being so that they can begin to truly live, saying no to what is merely good and saying yes to living in an extraordinary way. We know that Oasis on its own cannot change the world, but we are completely convinced that together with you, we can transform vulnerability into strength, reduce unemployment, restore emotional health, and plant seeds of hope in our community. Thank you for believing that together we can build a different future, an extraordinary future where every human being can rise, recognize their own value, and become an inspiration to others. Today, we are not only asking for support for a project, we are asking for support for a dream. I'm sorry. That can transform entire generations. With this center, we will not only forming more resilient and healthier individuals, but also strengthening the county with citizens who are fulfilled, productive, and committed, because the true health of a community is measured by the greatness of its people. The question is, could we count on you to make this vision a reality?
All right, so I just want to thank you, Board of Supervisors, for this time. James, for laying out what we know is inevitable, but what I do know is that we are in this together. We will organize, we will push, we will fight, and as someone said to me the other day, and we will continue to live in Si Se Puede every single day, because we have to. So thank you for your good work. Thank you, all of you, for being included. But we're in this together, and all of us are, just count on all of us, our community members, and all of us here. So thank you all.
So one last word. Thank you so much, Marissa, for the wonderful panel and the comments. And I just want to have a last word. It's just want to quote one of my favorite senator, Cory Booker. He says that power of the people is always greater than people in power. Remember that. Remember that. And that's why we're talking about getting people to vote. And you know somebody who needs to vote, and because you know what happened with a midterm coming out 2026, we expect the turnout not to be very high, so every vote is actually even more valuable. Remember, there are seats in Congress, like in Central Valley, that was won by 138 votes. 500 votes. These are the things, I'm not trying to be political here, I'm just saying, get people to vote. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for giving up your Saturday and rolling with the punches with us. We had some pivots today, which I think turned out for the better. Have a great Saturday. We'll follow up. We will follow up.